relearning how to train, getting away from like high intensity training and going for muscle pumping. It's not about the load on the bar. It's not weightlifting. It's building the body. How do you build the body? Well, to get it bigger, you have to stretch it. You have to get it used to being at that size. And we are back for another podcast. Okay, so if y'all didn't catch last week's episode, we talked about our diet a lot and what we're doing. I actually made revisions to my diet because this week I weighed in and my weight barely moved, probably like a quarter of a pound. So I made some adjustments. I also noticed that I was pretty much burnt come Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was pretty tired in the gym working out. So I looked at the amount of protein I was getting, the amount of carbs, and I adjusted my protein down to where I'm getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And then I increased my carbohydrates by the protein that I dropped down. Now I'm still carb cycling up and down, up and down. It's just I moved the protein and carbs around, so my calories are still the same. It's just I'm getting more carbs so I can have more energy to push through my workout harder. And on my low days, actually my low days and medium days, I'm putting my carbs more around my workouts. So I'm going to try this where I'm still getting the same amount of carbs that I would be getting, but instead of having it throughout every meal of the day, I'm getting them first thing in the morning, and then I'm getting them right before my workout and right after my workout. And there's a bug in here. Oh, all right. Anyway, so yeah, I've lost like maybe 4 ounces because I was like right at 229 and a half last week, and now I'm right at like 229 and a quarter. So I'm going to make these adjustments. I don't want to increase cardio right now because I'm doing a couple walks a day, like 3 walks a day, and I think that's plenty. I don't feel like I need to increase my cardio. Plus, with how much I'm working out, I don't feel like I really need to increase it. I just want to try to change up my carb timing so that way I get them when I need them first thing in the morning, give me energy throughout the day, and then right before and after my workout when my body is most be able to most utilize the high demand for like quick energy like carbohydrates. And I'll be getting it in the form of fruit actually instead of rice. Extra antioxidants, fiber, vitamins, just a lot of beneficial things. And plus, fruit's really sweet and it's easy to eat.
That is very true. As far as for my diet, I haven't changed anything yet. We were discussing yours though, past couple of days, and like different like options and stuff like that. And it's something that I guess I kind of started thinking about, but I haven't fully made like a decision to change anything on yet. My weight still came down a little bit. I'm right at about 260, which is a plus kind of thing, but I don't want it to drop off drastically like I've done before or anything like that either. But as of right now, again, I haven't changed anything, but throughout this week, I'm kind of going to do what you did over the past couple of days and kind of plan out something if I did decide to change it that I would go to for the change.
Think it through before you make the decision.
Yeah,
just keep running what you're going.
Yeah, and probably, again, add in like the fruit and like yogurt kind of thing, just because, again, like you're saying, it does taste delicious.
Yeah, and the benefit about yogurt is there's you have a lot of magnesium, and that's a very important electrolyte. And then you have calcium in it because it's a milk product. And then there's also probiotics in there that helps your digestion and your gut health. And then with the fruit, you get a lot of vitamins and minerals that you wouldn't really get by not eating them. I'm not saying you can't supplement them because I do take supplements for vitamins, but it's nice just being able to eat fruit because it's instead of always having salty, grainy foods, it's something different and it's nice and sweet. It's something that can go down really easy. You can eat it cold. There's no heating. There's no prepping. There's no cooking. It's literally just you can buy it and eat it. So it's very convenient. Okay, so we're going to talk about the training too. We didn't really get into that last week. So what we did was we sat down and we took a lot of like guru information, bro science, science, self-proclaimed experts, took all their information and looked at all these diets and programs, should I say, and we looked at like from back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like how they train versus how like they started training in like the 2000s, 10s, and 20s. looked at all the different philosophies from powerlifting to power building to bodybuilding to, going to failure, not going to failure. And now the whole thing is like reps in reserve. Like that's the new catchy phrase. It's like reps in reserve, reps in reserve. How many reps in reserve you have? I just think it sounds like more sophisticated than just saying like I don't go to failure. Just like people that say eccentric and concentric. It's like that kind of started with the powerlifting community, but now everyone uses it. I think it's just a fancy way of just trying to sound smart. It's a fancy way of saying, oh, well, how slow down the negative. Go explosive on the way up. Like, oh, you're going to concentric, you want to make in the eccentric. So, like I said, like it's just there's a little catchphrases you hear and they come and go. But I think a lot of people like I heard one like it was decay fatigue or something like that. They're using another word of death to decay fatigue or something like that. Like they're trying to add words in there that don't have no business being in there. Just like what? Just say offset, like to offset your fatigue. Like, why is that so hard? Like, why do you have to throw a word in there to try to like make yourself sound smarter than you are? Like, Jesus Christ, you pick up weight and you eat food. Like, it's not that serious. So, anyways, like I said, we looked at a lot of these programs and we came to the conclusion, like the guys back in the day, when they got done lifting, they didn't go to failure, right? They would do like, you would hear them doing like sets like 20, 25, 30. And I'm not talking about like sets of failure because nowadays it's like, oh, I do 1 set or I do 3 sets or I do 4 sets. But they're not talking about their warm-up sets. They're talking about their failure sets, their top sets. Like, well, I do 4 exercises and I do 3 warm-ups per exercise. Then I do 1 top set of each exercise, which is to failure. So I only do 4 sets. Even though I did 4, 8, 12, 16 total, I only did 4 actual sets. But they don't explain none of that. So it makes it very confusing for a lot of people out there who don't understand what they're talking about, because like in their head they know and they're just assuming it. And it's one of those things I feel like they try to trip people up like, oh, you only need 1 set. But it's like, okay, well, what's your 1 set? Well, it's my set. That's a drop set that turns into a rest pause, that turns into a superset, that turns into a, it's just like, okay, so it's not 1 set. It's like 6 sets in one that you just keep it going over and over and over again. That's not 1 set. Pick it up, you put it down, that's the set. It's an extended set of a set of a set of a set of a set, but I did 1 set. So I think there's a lot of like confusion out there, and I think there's a lot of people out there that try to overcomplicate it. But anyways, like I said, like that's how people are today with explaining. So back in the day when people said like, oh, I do 10 sets per body part, that's total. That's warm-ups plus working sets. That's everything. And guys back then, like I said, they did 20, 25, 30, sometimes even 35 sets per body part a week per workout, sometimes twice a week. Like there's videos out there of Arnold saying that he did 35 sets for his chest 3 times a week. 3 times a week. Now, I don't believe he did that every week, all the time. I do believe that he did that occasionally, but it wasn't all the time. Plus, Arnold was known for doing 2-a-days. Arnold would talk about he would train his chest in the morning and come back and train it again in the evening. So I'm going to do 15 sets in the morning, come back to do another 15 sets at night. It may not have been always at once because he throws out little tidbits here and there, just like a lot of these guys do, and no one paints the whole picture. So looking at all these training, but I can tell you this much, going back and looking at all the videos, there wasn't a single video that I really found that all these older guys would go to failure. So it's like, how many sets did you do? Oh, I did 20 to 30 sets of body part. But they never go to failure. When they pick the weight up, when they get done doing their set, it looked like they could go for another 15 reps, and they put it down. They never once are having every vein in their body pop out and look like they're like convulsing, like they're having a seizure. None of them did that. None of them ever went to failure. At least if you go back and look at, if you could find the footage and the videos of them actual training, not for like, oh, well, we got to make it look good. And if you read the interviews and if you read all the dialogues of most of these guys that do photo shoots and videos, they'll tell you, oh, I never lifted heavy like that. Even Lou Ferrigno, oh, I never lifted heavy like that. That was just for the cameras. I never touched weights like that, ever. That was always for the cameras. Like when you have a sponsor and you're trying to push their product, they want you to look impressive. They want you to push the envelope. And a lot of times they would like Photoshop bigger weights in like on the photo to make it look like you're doing more than you are, because it's all for like eye-catching grab, like, oh my God, look how strong he is. But in reality, like, I don't lift like that. I don't ever lift heavy like that, and I never take the set that far. And the guys that would go into photo shoots, a lot of times, they get hurt trying to lift these extreme weights for these videos and these photo shoots. And there's one dude who snapped both his knees, like dislocated both his kneecaps, and had to have surgery on a photo shoot because they wanted him to squat so much and they wanted it to look good for the photo. And he was a bodybuilder, and he snapped his knees off because of a photo shoot. And most of these guys don't even train like that. So Going to failure, I don't have nothing against it. I went to failure for a long time. In fact, actually, the majority of last year, we trained to failure. We did high intensity training.
Mm-hmm.
We did drop sets. We did rest pause. We did supersets. We did forced reps. We did negatives. We did all kinds of high intensity training. And we worked out 3 days a week for a good while. And we made sure we got adequate amount of rest, doing DC training, high intensity, doing all these little tricks and gimmicks, and even just doing straight sets of to failure, from 2 sets to 4 sets, depending on how many sets we took to failure. We didn't take every set to failure, but we took the last set of the exercise to failure. And I felt like last year was a big waste of my time because I wanted to revisit it. Excuse me. All that food today, it was a high carb day. So I wanted to revisit the high intensity. There's a lot of hype right now around it. Mike Mentzer's real big right now. Oh, failure, taking it to pill, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to revisit it. And the majority of the year we did spend doing failure. The beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, we put it in there a lot. So a better part of the year, it was doing a lot of high intensity training. And I feel like I ended up looking worse at the end of the year than I did at the beginning of the year. I was eating plenty of food, structured diet, doing what I was supposed to do, but I just don't feel like I got anything out of the year except for like aches and pains and joint issues. Like being 37 last year, 38 this year, like doing that type of training just doesn't really work for me anymore. It just leaves me more beat up feeling than it does feeling like I've accomplished something. So we tried it. So it's, and I've been lifting since I've been 14 years old. I've done I used to be a powerlifter, competed in powerlifting for many years, and that's all you do is high intensity, right? So, and I never got to having 22-inch arms. I tell you this much. My legs never got to 35 inches doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts, pushing the envelope of doing heavy, high intensity training. Was never super, muscular to fit the bill of, of that, but I was strong, but I wasn't like that. So anyways, so looking at what the guys did in the 70s and then hearing this whole like reps in reserve, 3 to 5 reps in reserve, you want to go 1 to 2 reps in reserve, 1 to 3 reps in reserve. You don't want to push it to failure, but you want a deep stretch, elongated, deep stretch, the stretch. Well, they said that in the 70s. Arnold said it many, many times. You want the stretch. You want the stretch. You want to pick exercises that you can get the biggest stretch, do the widest grip you can do, and get the deepest stretch you can get. And that's what Arnold did. Right? So, and that's what all those guys in the 70s did. And then it kind of got forgotten, and then it kind of, now it's coming back. So what we're doing is we have a rotating routine. So for 1 week, we do 3 sets, we do 4 exercises, and we do 3 sets, and that's it. We don't go to failure. We do between 8 to 20 reps, depends on the movement. The smaller movements like the shoulder will be more 15 to 20. Legs, we want to keep the weight lighter, so we go 15 to 20, so we get the workout from the repetitions, not from the heavy weight. And then we do that one time through. That's our rest week, and that's the week that we kind of recover. And then the next week we come in, we do it again, but the difference is we do 6 sets. But what we do is we do the whole routine all the way through, right? 3 sets per body part, and then we rest for 5 minutes, and then we do it again. But we don't pyramid the weight up. We're not constantly going heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, okay? The next week we come in, we do 4 sets of the workout, and then 4 sets of everything, and then we rest for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we repeat the whole routine again. So we go a week of just 3 sets, a week of 6 sets, and then a week of 8 sets. Now, that's per exercise, not total. So if you do the total, that's going to be 12 sets, and then it's going to be 24 and then 32 sets. So twice a week, right? We do it twice a week. We work the whole body out twice a week. So 1 week, on our low weeks, we're doing 12 sets. So 24 sets total over 2 days in 1 week. And the next week we do 24 sets, a total of 48 sets over the course of a week. And then the next week we do 64 sets over the course of the week. And then we go back down to 3, because the week of 3 is the one that we take it easy, we back off, and then we just kind of cruise through the workout, and then we recover and we rest. That's when we grow. And then the next week we pick the endurance up to be conditioned to get ready for the next week to come, which is Hell Week, which is week for the 8 sets, and then we repeat. That's what we're doing right now, and it's working really good. So sore like you wouldn't believe. Like you wouldn't believe. We call it week 6. We call it 3, 6, 8. So week 6, which is week 2, because we go off of the sets, not off of the week, off of the actual week. So for the sake of this, week number 2 was 6 sets. That is brutal until you get to week 3, which is 8 sets. That's even more brutal. And it's like, oh, well, that's overtraining. Well, I would agree. I would agree if you're going to failure, but we're not going to failure. So I pick movements. Like, I don't go off of like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. There's no dogma. So I'm like, okay, hey, I'm going to do some dumbbell press. I start to do the dumbbell press. If I can't feel my pecs working from rep 1 to rep 12, then I change either the weight or the exercise. So my whole thing is like, I want to feel the movement 100% in the targeted muscle through the whole entire range for the whole entire set. If I cannot feel the muscle contracting from rep 1 to rep 12, I'm either going too heavy, too light, or I'm just not targeting the muscle like I'm supposed to with that movement. So I change the exercise out. So I've slowly moved exercises around until I've gotten what I consider for my body right now the perfect workout, because everything I do right now and the way that I do it, I feel it exactly 100% where I need to feel it. My cable crossovers are not looking like conventional cable crossovers. My dumbbell flies don't look like conventional dumbbell flies. Neither do my pull downs or my barbell rows. I'm not doing things off of conventional of like, oh, this is textbook. I'm going off of how do I feel it and what does it feel like. There's no such thing as a dangerous movement. If you can do the movement, it's not dangerous. What makes it dangerous is going too heavy on the movement. So if you try to pick up 500, if you try to deadlift 500 pounds or squat 500 pounds and you can only squat 250, it's going to be dangerous for you. But if you can squat 250 and you're squatting 175, 185, it's not going to be dangerous for you, right? You're going to be strong enough to handle the load. So you don't pick weights that are so crazy. So what we do is we do pyramid up towards our top set, but our top set never goes to failure, and we make sure we're feeling the muscle. If we don't feel the muscle, then that means that we've either gone too heavy or we're going too light, and if not, then we change the exercise out. I've started with a weight, moved up to a weight, and then realized this is too heavy, I don't feel it like I should. In my next set, I bring the weight back down to the previous weight, and guess what? I feel it like I'm supposed to feel it, because that's what I'm after. I haven't had as good as pumps as I have with this training. With other high intensity trainings, my pumps are better. My muscle soreness is more intense. I actually get sore. Before, I never get sore. Now I get crazy sore. I get crazy pumps. I feel it in the muscle the whole entire time, and I'm making fantastic results right now. And the scale didn't move according to what I wanted it to move, but that also could just be because I have such mass inflammation from water retention from working out. Because the harder you work out, the more inflammation your body creates, and the higher your weight can climb from water retention. Your body can hold on to water. It happens. It's a real thing. So as long as you're eating enough food and you're recovering, and here's the thing, we work chest and back on Monday. By Thursday, our chest and back, it's good to go again. We're not sore no more. If we were still sore, then I would say, you know what, we probably are overtraining. If my grip starts to get tired and I can't hold on to something, that's central nervous fatigue. That's a trick from powerlifting. When you powerlift, you check your fatigue by holding onto a bar. You load a barbell up in the rack and you pick it up. If it feels heavy, or if you can't hold on to your grip of like a standardized weight, like let's say, okay, 315. Let me load 315 up and let me hold it for 30 seconds. And that's your standard. And if you come in, you could barely hold it for 12 seconds. Well, your central nervous is getting fatigued because your grip is starting to go. So if your grip isn't going and your central nervous isn't fatigued and your muscles aren't sore, you're eating enough food. It's not overtraining, because I don't feel like there's any one given way to work out. And the way that I'm cycling the sets, it's basically kind of like carb cycling, but we're doing it over the course of 3 weeks. And also, the second time around, you don't keep going up in weight. What we generally do is when we do the routine 2 times in a row, you'll build up to a weight, and then the next time around, you'll start with your second set weight, and normally that's what you'll do all 3 or 4 of your sets with. So let's just take dumbbell press, for example. Let's say you start off with the 45s, then you jump to the 65s, then you go to the 80s, right? Well, when you come back for the second time through, you might start with the 60s because you're already warmed up. But when you start with the 60s, you might realize this is all I need. This actually might be too heavy. So you might actually go 60, 50, 40s to be able to get all your reps and feel it, because you might do the 60s and on rep 8 you might be like, oh man, I don't even feel my chest no more. I can't even squeeze it properly because I'm so then you drop the weight so you can feel the squeeze and you can feel, so you pyramid up and then you try to hold that number, and if you can't, you pyramid down the second time through. You don't keep going heavy. You start off mid-weight and then you come down each set if you have to continue to feel the contraction. And if we do chest and back, then we do chest and then back and then rest and then chest and then back again. If we do biceps, triceps, shoulders, we do biceps, triceps, shoulders all the way through, and then we rest and then we do it again all the way through. The next time we come in, if we started with chest and back, next time we work out, we do back then chest. If we started with triceps, biceps, shoulders, then we come in and we do biceps, triceps, shoulders. We flip it. Normally we always do shoulders on the end because they're smaller muscles. We always go light on them so we don't have to worry about the fatigue. So that's never really been an issue. Plus shoulders get a lot of work from chest and back and everything else. Say I'm biased by it, but it's just not something I've ever felt like needed to be the primary workout for the starter workout where I'm freshest, because my shoulders have never really been that weak of an area for me. Maybe, soon they will be at one point, but right now they've never been the problem area. Like my traps and shoulders have never been really a problem area for me to be like, I need to put these first. Unlike my arms have always been one of the smaller muscles on me that have always needed more work. So I've always put those ahead of everything else when it comes to a training night. Those are always going to go first because I want to train them with the most intensity. Even whenever I powerlifted, I always put arms first. DC training, I put arms first because I don't want to be too tired to not hit them right. And you're not going to be as tired training your arms as you would be as training your legs. So whenever I put arms and legs on the same night, good luck training your arms after you really hit your legs hard enough, right? So that's what we're doing for our training. Questions you can ask. You can say it's stupid or dumb. It's not going to work, but it's working. And this isn't something far off than what I used to do when I was younger. And when I was bodybuilding when I was younger, I looked pretty damn good for making a routine similar to this without it being actually this. And it took me a long way until I started listening to these gurus.
Yeah, it's not training the strain, but training the actual muscle. That's mostly just like in a short version of what we're doing. Before, like for me, like I've always enjoyed more of like training the muscle, but every now and then we get into the point where it's more the strain that was like at the end of everything. It was just a strain kind of feel. And now it's just a dead focus on not training to the strain, but to train the actual contraction of the muscle, the feel of the muscle, and the exact area you're trying to target. Like if you're trying to target the upper chest, you want to do the movement and feel it in the upper chest. If you're not feeling it in the upper chest, then okay, maybe that movement's not the one for you for the upper chest. Try a different one and keep trying the different movements until you find the one. Like, okay, when I do this movement and I squeeze and I get to the end of it, I can feel like that's the upper chest contracting. All right, let me keep going. Yep, that's all upper chest. Okay, I'm good with that one. All right, now let's find one for the lower chest. Find one for the lower chest that works. And that's basically all we're doing. We just found movements for each of us that when we're doing the movement, we're contracting exactly where we want to feel it and making sure that's where we feel it no matter what the weight is. And sometimes you'll have a day where you're a bit higher on the weight. Sometimes you'll be a bit lower on the weights. It doesn't matter as long as you're feeling the muscle, because at the end of it, like you're saying, this week I've had a steady soreness, and it's not like, oh, like my body aches kind of thing. It's just there's a muscle soreness, and it's honestly exactly like, yeah, like I know I worked those muscles out yesterday because those are the ones that are tender right now. Those are the ones that are sore. Those are the ones I feel it in right now. Like I know I use them, and they like were trained for sure. And that's basically the whole gist of what we're trying to do at the moment.
Yeah, so exactly what you said. So like, let's take like our chest, prime example. When we do incline dumbbell press, I need a more vertical seat, and I feel that with the incline dumbbell press, I feel that right in my pec minors, right on top under my collarbones, perfectly. If I lay the bench down lower, I don't feel it in my pecs. I feel it in my shoulders all the way. You, on the other hand, you need the bench laid down further, and you feel it in your upper pecs. If you go higher up, it transitions to load onto your delts, and you feel it in your shoulders. I like doing dumbbell flies flat on the bench, and I get that deep stretch through the middle of my chest. You prefer the pec deck. You feel it in your delts whenever you do dumbbell flies. I feel it in my delts when I do pec deck. So those are two different movements that we do that are the same. It's the same movement, but it's just a different position of angle of the arms and the body position and your mechanics, and it feels completely different from one movement to the other. But the goal is retraining ourselves, like, because I have such a I have an issue where, like, I love the intensity training, right? I love training intense. I love going heavy. I'm like, yeah, man, yeah, what was this, 275? Let's push it to 315. Well, we could go for 4. I mean, 8, yeah, whatever, but let's get at least 4. And if we get 4, man, let's take it to 350, So it's like, I love lifting heavy weights, and it's like, okay, let's make it harder by doing rest pause and drop sets, and let's build those numbers up. I love watching the numbers on the barbell go up. Like, I'm a power lifter through and through. Like, I love watching numbers go up. The scale going down or going up, it's always a good feeling. The numbers on the barbell going up is a good feeling. It's just something that's like, it tells you you're making progress, and you can feel it. Like, and benching 135 doesn't feel like benching 315. Like, I'm sorry, if you could bench 135 for a solid 8 versus benching 315 for a solid 8, it doesn't feel the same. Even though you can handle it the same, it doesn't feel the same. Laying under 300 pounds is a totally different animal. It feels completely, you feel just more grounded and more just, right? And I love that feeling. But that's not bodybuilding. That's powerlifting. That's weightlifting. That's chasing a logbook. Bodybuilding is training the body. It doesn't matter how much weight. It doesn't matter the number on the dumbbell. It doesn't matter what the number is. All that matters is the muscle contracting? Is it under load? And are you able to stretch it under that load with a full contraction? Now it's all about the stretch. But I believe the contraction is just as important as the stretch. If you don't feel a peak contraction on a curl, and you feel it in the dead center of your bicep, like, oh man, that's all bicep right there, and it's just nothing at the top, but you feel a good deep stretch, but there's nothing at the top, like I'm sorry, but like, I've never had to flex my bicep like this. And when you're on stage, if I, like, you flex your arm like this, you don't flex it out here. I understand you're trying to stretch the fascia tissue, but balling it up and forcing blood in there, that's still stretching, and that's what gives the better pump. So like I'm going straight bro science with some of this, but at the same time, it's like, I know how fascia tissue works, and I know how the pump works, and people say you don't need a pump to grow, but I argue the difference. I argue that, because here's the thing about it. Training, relearning how to train, getting away from, like, high intensity training and going for muscle pumping. It's not about the load on the bar. It's not weightlifting. It's building the body. How do you build the body? Well, to get it bigger, you have to stretch it. You have to get it used to being at that size. So the way fascia tissue works is you have your muscle fibers, and then you have this little sleeve, this tube that all the muscle fibers run through, and that's the fascia tissue. And that tissue is designed to keep those fibers together and keep them safe, right? When you pump up, what happens is the blood in them goes to the muscle fibers, and it swells up, and it stretches that fascia, and that fascia is squeezing down on that muscle, okay? And that's the feeling of the pump. That way, it doesn't matter if you're a 120-pound kid or you're a 300-pound monster. The pump always feels the same. It makes you feel like you're a 300-pound monster, because that fascia tissue. So you're telling me that if the pump's not important, but the stretch is. Well, why is the stretch important? Well, you're stretching the length of the muscle. That's tendon to tendon. If your tendon ties into here, and it ties into here, and your muscle belly is here, and then you stretch your muscle belly, you're not expanding it. You're stretching it length, but you're not expanding width. There's length and width. So if you pump a bunch of blood in there like a balloon, what does a balloon do? It expands outwards when you put more water or more air in there. So if you get a pump and you can maintain a pump for 2 hours, that means that fascia tissue is being stretched out for 2 hours before it finally can come down. And this happens over and over and over and over again until finally the fascia tissue relax. And now the muscle can grow to that size. And now you have to continue to stretch it out until it finally relaxes here and allows the muscle fibers to grow and hold open, right? I read, there was a whole article done on this at a university with the science, and they did the lab work. They did the the DEXA scans, they did the muscle mass, they checked the fascia tissue, they did imaging, the CT scans, they did all of it, right? They did all this study and they used machines, they did everything, like the pump and how does it grow and the muscle tissue, what restricts it, what causes the feeling of the pump, like what is it? That's not just the blood rushing in there, it's the fascia tissue being stretched, right? That's the pump. That's why back in the 70s, people are like, the pump, the pump, the pump. It's important. You have to get a pump. You have to get a pump. If you want to grow, you have to get a pump. I mean, it only makes sense. If you pump your up with blood and you get your muscles that big, eventually they're going to be that big. So training the body to get bigger through pumping blood into the muscle by lifting weights, it doesn't matter how heavy the load is. It matters how much blood can you get in the muscle and how long can you keep the blood in the muscle with keeping the lactic acid down. Now, you can't just like go walk all day and expect your calves to get bigger. Oh, I'm getting blood in my calves all day. There has to be a stimulus to growth. That's where the weights come in. I'm not saying, oh, you can lift 5-pound dumbbells and get a pump and just keep doing that. The weight has to increase. Exactly what you said earlier. Some days you come in, you're feeling good and strong. It's time to cook. The grease is hot. Lift some heavier weights. Next time you come in, hey, I'm feeling a little tired. Let me back off the weights. Let me come down by 10% or 15%. Or you know what? I was doing the 80s on the dumbbell press. You know what? I'm kind of feeling a little fatigued or not so strong, but I still want to get the blood. I still want to stretch. So let me work up to the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole goal is not to fail. So you can say, oh, well, that doesn't work and that's not the, but man, it just depends on what study you want to believe, right? And who you want to listen to at the end of the day. So I'm retraining myself with the mindset of I'm bodybuilding, not weightlifting. I think Kai Green said it best. Kai Green says, I'm not a weightlifter. I will never be a weightlifter. I'm a bodybuilder. Weightlifters care about how much load is on the bar, how much weight they're lifting. I don't care. I just want stress on my muscle with a contraction and a stretch that's going to allow me to sculpt my body into the way I want it to be. You can't do that by lifting heavy. You have to do that by using your body and your muscles. You can't just lift a bunch of heavy weights and get big. It's not the way it works. And like Kai Green was an amazing bodybuilder, and unfortunately he never won Mr. Olympia and stuff like that, but he came close to Phil Heath. Him and Phil Heath battled out for years till finally he had enough. And I was just like, and that's another, Phil Heath. Phil Heath was notorious for never lifting heavy. Jay Cutler never lifted heavy. Now, don't get me wrong. Jay Cutler was benching 315 for sets of 20. That's heavy. But at his size, it's not heavy. He wasn't lifting heavy weight for what he could actually do. Just like Phil Heath. I don't think Phil Heath rarely ever went over the 35s or the 45-pound dumbbells. Very rarely did he ever lift heavier than that. And he got ridiculed for that. Oh, you don't even lift heavy. You don't lift heavy. It's like, well, why would you? Dexter Jackson never lifted heavy. Never lifted heavy. He would do side laterals with the 15, 20-pound dumbbells. He never went heavy. And he even said it. I used to read his interviews and whenever they would interview him and stuff, he was like, he got injured one time. He's like, yeah, I knew better. You know, I was in the gym with all these young cats and they were clanging and banging on some heavy weights and they got me all amped up and I knew better, but I was like, all right, let's do this. And then I kind of got caught up in that set. And then next thing I know, I can't remember what he hurt, but he ended up hurting himself and it put him back for about 2 months of training. And he's like, I know better than that. I can't go heavy. That's for the young kids. I don't do that no more. And he competed into his 50s on the Mr. Olympia stage. And you're going to tell, intensity. He didn't live till failure. Even Lou Ferrigno had like I said earlier, like all these guys, that's all for smoke and mirrors. So failure, I do 2 sets. I do 3 sets. But there's also, to play devil's advocate, there's a give and a take. If you want to lift, if you want to in and out of the gym, high intensity, 45 minutes, 3 times a week, you're in and out. Saves you time. It's awesome. But as you get older and the weights get heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, which they ultimately will, there's going to come to a point where you're going to hit a hard wall and you're not going to progress past that wall. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have to rely on your joint strength. And you're going to start having to recruit more muscles to do the same lift. You're going to have to start moving your form around, and you're going to start turning more to a power lifter where you're using multiple muscles to do one lift so you can lift more weight and more reps with the same lift. Then that's going to lead to aches and pains and joint issues, right? It comes at a cost. So it's either I'm going to do a lot of reps and a lot of sets and keep the weight modest and be in the gym for a while, frequently, or I'm going to spend less time in the gym, go really heavy and really hard and get in and get out at the risk of diminishing returns of injury. And when you're always lifting heavy, I promise you, you're always on the edge of injury. You're always just about to have your next injury, and it may not even happen in the gym. You look at Branch Warren. Branch Warren slipped on wet pavement and tore his quad off his knee. Got it fixed. 2 years later, got bucked off a horse, tore his quad off his knee, getting bucked off of a horse. Just because you haven't had an injury in the gym doesn't mean there isn't one lurking around a corner, you know. So and that could go for bodybuilding, lifting lightweight too. You never know when your injury is going to happen. But I can tell you this much: if you're always lifting to failure and pushing yourself to the extreme, you're inviting that injury to come a lot quicker and a lot sooner. Because the guys who go the furthest and look the best and are the strongest are the ones that could go the longest without injury. So, I mean, that's what took me out from powerlifting is injury. So,
yeah, it's definitely chasing everybody. You just try to stay ahead of it.
Yeah, but I've kind of ran this whole podcast. Is there anything you want to add to it? Because I know you have thoughts on it too about the training and what you were saying earlier and stuff like that about like not lifting to like the point where you are fatigued and everything.
Yeah, it's like I said, you've covered most of it. I was just kind of touching on a couple spots, but again, it's just making sure that we're doing what we need to as individuals. Like I'm not going to say everything, but most things nowadays kind of want to talk and generalize stuff is like, this is what you need to do. Like, this is how you get to here. This is what's being done to get to this point kind of thing. And it's like, okay, yeah, like that's what was done by that individual to get to that point. That doesn't necessarily mean across everybody in the out there that's doing it or whatever. If they do the exact same thing, they're going to get the exact same result. Some people might get no result from it at all, and they have to do something completely different. Mm-hmm. So like there's going to be people out there that can just do like the high intensity heavy lifting, and they'll get the size and whatever else they want out of it, and that's all they need to do, and that works for them, and they can go all their life, career, whatever it is, and never really deal with any injuries and stuff like that. And that's just their luck of the draw. There's other people that, doesn't matter what they do, they get injured constantly. And then there's some people that is like, yeah, like that's not for me. I tried it, didn't work. I do this, I lift really light weights for like lots of reps or whatever. I get volume in, and that's what works for that person. And they're able to run with it, and they can keep up size for size or whatever. Maybe not pound for pound in weight, but size for size, they can keep up with those people. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things. Just don't always look at something and see it and be like, okay, they're saying like this is what needs to be done, and think that that's exactly what you have to follow. Like you still have to follow the one that's going to work for you. There's no one size fits all when it comes to any kind of exercise or workout or whatever. Just like there's no one size fits all for fat loss, whatever it is that you're trying to do. You got to find what's going to work for you and what you're able to do on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Like if you hate what you're doing, you're not going to stick to it for a long period of time. You're not going to put years of your life into doing it if every day you go to do it and you're like, I hate this. I hate doing this. It's not going to work. Like you got to make it into something that you enjoy doing at some extent. That's maybe not every day you're in there enjoying it, but 75, 80, 85% of the time that you're doing like the diet and the exercise and stuff like that, you got to find some sort of enjoyment out of it. It gives you something back that you feel like this was worth me putting in the effort for.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. I agree with that 100%. And then like speaking of like, you know, so many things work different for so many people. Like look at a elite like sprinter's legs, right? You never seen an elite sprinter with scrawny, skinny legs. They don't lift weights. They run very explosively, a lot of volume by running. I mean, if you run 40 meters over and over and over and over and over again, that's not high intensity. That's rapid volume, right? But they have like some of the most beautiful legs. You'll see thick, muscular legs, right? Powerful, explosive legs. And that's not done doing a set with 500 pounds. Oh, I did squats with 500 pounds for a set of 8, you know, to failure. You know, no, what'd you do? I had to run fast for a short burst of energy, right? I had to run. Look at boxers, not all boxers, but look at people that jump rope. Most people that jump rope, they got pretty big calves. Look at people that play certain sports and stuff like that, and just look at the muscles and what, you know, and like versus like a basketball player versus like a football player. Look at the leg difference.
Yeah.
right? Like endurance versus like explosive. But you can't tell me that that's not volume blowing off the line. You know, whenever you're lined up playing football, whenever they hike the ball and you explode up, that's still volume work, because you're not lifting intensely. I mean, you're using your muscles, sure, but not like you are on a 500-600 pound squat. And that does carry over. And I mean, let's look at gymnasts, right? Look at gymnastics. Gymnasts have some of the best biceps in the world, and they don't ever do barbell curls. They do chin-ups and pull-ups, and not for one set to failure of the most intense, training protocol they can do. They do multiple sets with a lot of reps with their body weight, just getting up to the bar to be able to do their lifts and stuff, to do their movements in their sport and everything. That's where their builds come from. Some of the best arms and shoulders you'll ever see is on gymnasts. I mean, they don't have to lift super heavy, intense weights and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's just so many things work different for so many people. And then also it comes down to some people just aren't genetically capable of putting on that much muscle or putting on that much strength or doing that either. It's just some people, it's like that's why you have a guy who's so great at golf, another guy who sucks at golf, but he puts just as much time, if not more, into being good at golf. Just like you can have a guy who puts more effort into bodybuilding but sucks at it, and you have this one guy who puts minimal effort and he's amazing at it. It's genetics. It comes down to it a lot too. Just like, for instance, like a Kobe, right? I mean, look at Michael Jordan, look at Tiger Woods, look at J.J. Watt, right? Look at some of the greats out there. It's like, do you think that they would have been just as good in a different sport as they were in that sport? Probably not. They probably still would have been good, but they wouldn't have been the best. Yeah. It's just your body, some people's bodies and muscle fibers, slow twitch versus fast twitch versus your bone structure and your joint placement and your leverages. It all varies. But I kind of started trailing there. I was going somewhere with that. But anyways, yeah. So, man, I lost it. And I was going there. But anyways, you did make a valid point. Not everything's going to work the same for everybody, and it's not dogma. Like it's not like, oh, it has to be this way. You can mix, match, and change up. And even look at Ronnie Coleman, right? Ronnie Coleman worked out 6 days a week, trained everything twice a week, right? He talked about it. He did roughly 12 to 15 sets per body part per workout twice a week. He had like an all barbell movement workout, and then he had an all dumbbell movement workout. So he did all barbells the first time, then he did all dumbbells the second time. He called that his secret workout, was all the dumbbell work. And then what he would do is he would do sets of 15 to 25 reps. He didn't do 8 to 12. He didn't do 4 to 6. He did between 15 to 25 sets on almost everything he actually did, unless he felt like going heavy. Then he would go super heavy. And then, of course, his 800-pound deadlifts and his 800-pound squats. He has his 2,600-pound leg press. He has tons of videos of him lifting ridiculously heavy weights for low reps. But that was just because he felt like doing that day. That's not how he trained every day. That's just like, hey, I want to go heavy today. And then he went heavy because he was a power lifter too. But the majority of his workouts, and if you listen to him and listen to his interviews and read what he did, the majority of every guy that would work out with him, he was always around the 15 to 25 rep range. And then he would rest very little between his sets. But he would still go heavy. I mean, you ain't going to sit there and say a 200-pound dumbbell, 400 pounds, for a set of 20 is light. He moved it like it was nothing, but that's still a tremendous amount of weight. So you can't tell me he wasn't training intense. He was training with both, but because he's like, I don't even say he's 1%. He's probably less than that. He's probably like 0.001% of the population, because he's literally the definition of built different. Like literally the definition of built different. Just a beast all the way around, And then same thing for Branch Warren. Branch Warren, he lifted heavy, but he worked everything out once a week, but he did, I think, 25 sets per body part. That's total warm-ups and working sets, but he did typically about 25 sets per body part. Lots of reps, lots of sets. I think his average workout was around, I think he did like 4 to 5, sometimes 6 movements per body part, doing about 4 to 5 sets per movement. Did a lot of work, a lot of volume, and he almost won Mr. Olympia next to Jay Cutler. Came in second. He, I think he won the Arnold Classic time or two. I can't remember. So, but like I said, it all varies. But I'm trying to err on the side of like I'm getting older, and I want to be in this for a long time, not for a short time. That's where I was going with it. And like what you said, in order to lost it again, son of a gun, that was right there. Oh man. But anyways, I want to be this for the long haul, right? I don't want to do this for just finding joy. There it is. All right, so like that's the thing. You have to find joy. You have to find excitement. You have to get something out of it. There has to be something that makes it worth doing. And if you don't have that, you're not going to stick to it. So finding a diet that you can do is the best diet. Finding a training program that you can stick to is the best training program. Doesn't matter what anyone else says or can do. If you don't show up for it, you're never going to get better at it. If you don't do the diet, you're never going to get better from it. So it doesn't matter if this is like the perfect diet and training program, and this will make you exactly who you want to be. If you can't continuously do it, it's not the best training program in the world or the diet for you, and it's just not, because you're not doing it. It's just that simple. You have to get some type of whatever out of it that keeps you wanting to go back. For a long time, that was powerlifting. That was the numbers, watching the barbell go up, right? Watching the numbers go up. That's what kept me going, you know. And then now the transition has to be more vanity, you know, like, oh, cool, you know, there's a new vein. Oh, there's a new line. Oh, there's a new striation. Oh, look, that's starting to peak. That's starting to come out. Oh, that's getting wider. That's getting thicker. So it's a different thing, and it takes longer, but it's at the end of the day, it's something that I can continuously do into my old age. That's going to keep me healthy and keep me off the couch. And it's not about health. It's just about longevity. I don't want to be bound to a wheelchair from injury or from just a lack of effort of moving, you know. But that's all I got, man. I could keep it going, but I'm going to end it right there because I got to get the pit going because we are grilling tonight. We're doing vegetables and chicken. That's our cheat meal. I do one cheat meal a week, and my cheat meal is grilled chicken and vegetables. How exciting is that?
Tastes good.
Yeah, it sure does. So is there anything else you want to add?
I'm good for the night.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We're going to end it here, and we'll see you next time.